Namaste.
Paula, when'd you get here?
Saturday night, late. So happy to be here.
Welcome.
Happy you're here.
What are we doing? Let's see.
Today is 1 hour. That's what we're doing.
Oh, okay. Whatever is in between the beginning and the end, I get to have. We get to have whatever's left over, right? I do need management. I accept that. So it's part of the dynamics. I am always happy to have someone who can kind of keep track of these grounded realities, although Satsang is now writing with me in ways she hasn't before, and it's harder when you
Oh, we've
are...
been having fun. Last night we watched Llewellyn von Lee on Buddha at the Gas Pump, and right after that was Irina Tweedy. So really, really good.
And
Yeah.
of course they're related, because Llewellyn is...
I think she passed.
Yes,
Oh,
quite
this
a...
is an old one.
This is an old one.
Yeah, it was definitely old.
She looked really good for her age, though.
Very vibrant.
Yeah, it was neat. Yeah.
And it was something to receive the transmission, because what Llewellyn has and what she has are source and that which follows the source. So it's one step removed, a copy of the original. So to have been able to have opportunity, I've never seen a live video of her interacting, and it's almost 2 hours. So it's
amazing.
really something. I guess it got posted about a year ago, so it's not been up that long.
I don't know how old it was. Did it
About
say?
a year. It got
No, but
posted a year ago.
she passed away some time ago.
Yeah, so I think it was 80s.
It's a Buddha at the gas pump?
It wasn't, but it was on the same link that allowed us to watch the
Yeah.
Buddha at the Gas Pump
Okay.
with Llewellyn. So if you, perhaps you'll see it's one of the other ones you could tie into YouTube.
Yeah.
But the thing that was clear is she demonstrates the mystery of the transmission. She is one who, when she first heard of them, fear rose up as the clue that this was her teacher. So that was that's one version of recognition, is this recognition, oh my God, this is the end of me. You know, ego doesn't want that one. But her journey and her courage and her complete alignment with this was just a very dramatic story, and she shares her story. I've never heard that before. She's written in her book, but you actually hear her share a summary of everything that isn't in the book. Then she leaves what's in the book for you to reference from there. So the nature of an older woman from Russia,
Where's she from?
Russia originally, but
Russia?
and in England and many other places. Her last husband died in England. But was this someone who was carrying the transmission and the authority? And you could tell, unlike me, she was still in absorption with what was coming through her. I've had to train myself to come into my human nature as a conscious effort. So that she was still able to stay in that state, and watching her for an hour and a half was one of the best delights I've had in recent times. Because I say, I know that place.
Well, and you get to see the big picture because Llewellyn von Lee bought the house. They lived upstairs and she lived downstairs, and that's where she held all her satsangs.
But she did come to the United States. I didn't know that. So she did satsangs in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area for a while. Anyway, there was a satsang. She was giving a satsang while she was there.
That looked like England though.
And if you listen to her, she's saying the same truth I say.
Yeah.
You know, what she teaches for her technique, sit silent and still. You
Oh
know?
yes, but
And
breathe
that
love
everything,
into the heart.
and then there was a technique she gave for one person who was asking, who happened to be the guy who was shooting the movie. And so, I mean, it was a good technique. It was about, you know, put your attention on while you're sitting silent and still, and you notice your thoughts happening. Open your heart and put all the thoughts into your heart. So that as a means of quieting thought. So, but she didn't have, she said men have to have all these mantras
Yes,
and
but
techniques.
the women don't.
But women just need to sit quiet and still, and then all the darkness will show itself. So I said, yeah,
Have your mantras.
that's my lady. So anyway, there was this universality recognition at that time. And Llewellyn, of course, speaks to the imbalance of the masculine and feminine. And I watched the entire interview with Gas Pump, and it was just so lovely to be in that state of oneness he is enjoying. But it doesn't have the transformative force that works with the darkness. It has this strengthening of the light component. But it was so like, I wish I could just do that. But I was born in trauma. I lived in trauma. I had to meet the darkness of the addictions and the negativity and the self-destruction.
You had a different path.
And I'm sure it's because my work is to work with the darkness. It's not just to work with the light. I see that the light will be revealed automatically, proportional to our ability to meet the darkness. So, you know, it's therefore it's a battling, not just always I've got to say the foundation is to find the peace, the connection to the inner being. Without that, you don't have anything really that can meet the darkness. That isn't going to get overtaken by the human nature. But if the being is there, you can begin to open up to the universal forces, which will then guide you. And if you have what he was sharing, which is this listening for the lesson, listening for what life is trying to show us, rather than the doing and the activity and the distraction. And he spoke very well about the environmental consequence of the imbalance between the doing and the masculine, and that we have been used the word numbers of times. The spirit in us has been censored as a culture. That it's been censored. That literally we don't even know it's there, and therefore it withdraws. So it's not as accessible in the West, which has been my experience since I first went to India, and I came back, and there was the immediate access to the oneness was not available. So there is tremendous truth in both of them. But it makes me feel that I wanted to bring clarification on truth and love. Because those are pointers, right? They're pointing. So, you know, what someone thinks truth is whatever they bring. They look at the pointer and they find what it's pointing to into what they can know. So you can know truth according to your own capacity to access what that might be. Maybe it's authenticity. Maybe it's being able to just call it as it is. Maybe it's sharing whatever poison happens to be going up in you, and that's truth, right? Truth is what I feel is truth, and therefore expressing my truth is right. Right? That whole perception of what that is going to be subjective, and when we point to love is even much worse. Because the whole idea of love is in so many different languages and so many different paradigms that the viewer is going to shape what it is. So I wanted to tell you something, or speak to, which maybe most all of you know, that the reconciling of these two, truth and love, is true love. When we bring these two principles together, then we can have a conversation, because there's no such thing as truth by itself or love by itself. If love is without truth, then it's need, attachment, dependency, drama, sex, jealousy, competition, all the things that go with love without truth. Because it'll always be betrayed, because it's not based, the trust is not based on truth. The trust is based on perception and projections and hope and wish and imagination and biological urges. which isn't untruth, but when it comes to true love, it's a distortion. It's a lesser expression of truth. And when you get to love, when you get to truth, where's the love? Huh? Truth is the end of everything. And the beginning of everything, or it's the timeless reality that never changes. It is the eternal principle of the absolute that actually is a fundamental, pointing to a fundamental principle that every human carries as the essential reality that animates our existence. Gives us intelligence, gives us will, gives us self-awareness. But just by itself, where's love? No love at all. Maybe energy. Maybe unspeakable vastness. But when you descend from truth, and where do you descend from truth? You come out of the non-existence and you come into existence. You start moving into the vibratory frequency of other. Because love can't happen without another. And when the lover and the beloved are the same, there ain't no apparent truth there. Right? You got to have two in order to have one. But when you become one, there's no two. So this descent of truth into creation is actually, even at the bottom of the spectrum, what we call love. The entire existence, from the origin, the opening between the existence and non-existence, from the Hiranyagarbhaya and on, everything is love. Varying degrees. And what is the difference between true love and untrue love? We human beings are the only possessor of that knowledge. We experience the absence of truth in love as part of the drama of every relationship in life. I believed it was true. I hoped it was true. I trusted you. How dare you? All that. So who owns the error is us. We own the error. It's not in the universe. Perfect universe, perfectly fine. Mud, dirt, atomic reaction, worms in mud. They don't question it. They're happy with whatever piece of love they've got, which is usually to be able to eat, to drink, to live, and to reproduce, and not be eaten. But that's secondary. There's probably love even in the moment of eating. You ever see how deer surrender to the lion or the cougar that catches them? They surrender to being eaten by the predator. And if you look at the human relationships, women, men too, carry this surrendering to the predator. And that's love too. I give up myself. I give up what I would want. Is love too. Of course, it still carries a distortion that only us humans can know best. Even the gods can't fully understand how we make it so miserable for ourselves. They look in awe at how we perpetuate resentments and hold grudges, lifetimes carrying it on to our children. How do they do that? Why would they do that? Because they don't know the truth. Because they can't access that other component of what they are and are lost in the distortion of the error. So if one's speaking from the place of absolute, you say it's all a lie. It's all adding content to the one pure reality. You're cluttering up the most simple and most true and eternal quality of being, existence. To know this is the final and purest. Of course, that's a form of love. What is the love? Love of that which you are, that recognizes that is all not love, or not love as I wish to be. So obviously, even one who realizes truth has a preference. prefer this clear, unlimited, unbounded freedom from all the bullshit of me and my life and human beings and the conditions and the unworkability and the, you know, why in the fuck is it still here, you know? From the vantage point of truth, this is also a truth that has not actually been willing to come down. So therefore, it's not true love. So even those who reach the highest, if they stay in that highest, they get cranky. It gets like a desert. Because you're still alive, right? You're still breathing, still eating, still getting by. So it's like the gap between the two leaves you in this place of stripped away emptiness. And that's because the love isn't proportional to the truth. Now, what truth beings don't realize is they can descend, but they won't like it. Because you start seeing that you're the problem. You'll start seeing, if you're willing to continue to descend, that you're the problem. And the moment you're seeing you're the problem, love starts demonstrating itself. It starts showing up as this kind of quality of saying, holy shit, I have a way of holding things that is not in the relationship with the possibility of existence. That's the beginning of recognizing that truth alone is not the ultimate. So then there is this descending into creation. And all of you have had moments of coming to greater truth and then having to come back. You get irritable. Mm-hmm. You know, it's cranky. It's got to be someone else's fault. You know, can't be mine. It's the relationship, or it's the dog, or the loud noise, or the light, or who knows, whatever.
The husband.
What's that?
The husband.
The husband. Or the wife. So this coming down and recognizing that you have something to do with why you're cranky, is this actually the beginning of eating the upper dried branches of love. And it begins to take you into this sort of like, fuck it, I gotta get, grim recognition of what there is that has to still be met, because there's something compelling. There no imbalance in existence can stay in balance. And to be linked only with that which is on the fringes or out of existence, while you're still in existence, is an extreme imbalance. Just as it is on the other side of the spectrum, where you're killing the one who you're jealous with, or being killed by them in betrayal. It's both spectrums are extreme imbalances. Love needs to be balanced by truth. The proportion of these two is everything. You could look at the entire organization of our spiritual path and our own ability to progress on the spiritual path as the relationship between these two, which also happen to mean you as a person and you as supreme. And you may come down part of the way and you start finding a kind of love that happens in the transcendent, in the luminous fields of prior to creation, the radiant presences and forces the Mother Book describes. In these radiant fields, you'll say, okay, this is good. Between this and truth, I can do that. I'll just dip down into this pool of bliss and then pop back up when I get tired. And when I get tired up here, I'll pop on down there. And how long does it take before you get tired of that? You do. You will, because it's carrying an imbalance between the sat and the asat, between the fullness of what the possibility of existence is. So then you descend further, and then it's more treacherous. The gods are also jealous. They're envious. They're competing with each other. They like establish territory and then win over the territory of other gods in order to accumulate and acquire greater capacities to create and be godlike. And that, so then you get into a trueness that has a love feeling, because in the moment of being able to have those powers or abilities, you feel like you are able to be more in existence than anything else but you. I'm the best thing that ever happened to this country. So it's this quality of engagement where there's a truth and a remaining untruth, because the love is not complete. As it descends more, then it comes out of, it's like a child. You know, the gods are, especially the big primal ones, they're just like big bad children or big good children. They don't know really what they're doing. They're just acting out impulses that they are not self-aware of. They are not self-aware. The gods do not have guilt. They do not have shame. They do not have fear. They're consumers. They consume those middle dimensions for themselves. But it's only when they descend down further. Now, the thing that happens for us as a human being who attains it and comes down, we carry a conscience. We carry a recognition of what these things are. And they can be very intoxicating, except when you know absolute truth. Even the intoxication seems, so, okay, that's interesting. It's better than absolutely nothing. But it's not like the big deal if you came from the other way up to it. You know, you come up from ordinary human and you go up into those domains, you say, wow, yeah, more of that. What do I need to do? Yeah, renounce yoga, when you name it, do it. I'll sign up, more. A way to come into a truer relationship with the love, which is the food of all existence. This love is, from the most orgasmic or most biological component, what keeps life growing. It is the relational with others in this emerging, coming into existence more and more fully. So as we wake up as human beings, an improved version of slug and slime, and we have discernment, not a big improved version, but a better or newer version, a more dangerous one, and one that's in more pain than perhaps these other parts are aware of, these other beings are aware of. So this more acute awareness of the imbalance comes at some point in humans, and that awareness of the imbalance doesn't mean we know how to fix it. It means we suffer it until we discover the cause of that imbalance. And that's the work we do. And there's many teachers who teach many different effective techniques to be able to come into relationship with that truer love. But it's all love. That's all it is. And in love, there's no fear, there's no doubt, there's nothing to get, nothing to lose. There is a fullness of existence being interconnected to all parts of existence, and you're aware of it. And the more aware and the less dependent, the more it's not shaped by desire or ambition or control or domination, the more true it becomes and the more fulfilling it is, until that becomes the only food you care about. So unconditional love is actually what we're all looking for, but we have to develop a taste for it because we're used to this poisonous slurry that we accept as love. So we have to learn how to refine our tastes. We have to learn to thrive off of that more refined version than the stuff we're used to. And if you look at nature, if you look at this creation, I see the trees blowing in the wind, dancing in response to the wind. Those leaves are in the light of being, of their own existence, feeling the coldness coming after a warm day, but they don't know it. They're just completely expressions of the principle. in which we are all part of, a deeply interwoven fabric of being in existence. Now, to have that be stronger than the patterns of our human conditioning, to develop a taste for the wonderment, we have to learn to shed the things in us that are still addictive to the lesser vibrational fields of love. The lesser vibration. You could say that there really isn't no truth. There's only the fulfillment of love. That's also true. You could also say there is no such thing as love without truth. But love is where all the pieces have finally moved into relationship with each other, and they become in the process merged with each other, and they become the one truth, which is an expression of the multiplicity of all the forms of love that are ever possible. So the Supreme Being is both this weave and fabric of life in which we're part of it, both uniquely as humans in the painfully aware part of it when we're out of balance, and the aspiring, longing part of it that is aware of the separation and seeking to balance. Love begets love. Love, its natural move is to love more, is to have more love. This is very close to nature. A little nurturance wants you to get more nurturance. A little food to get more food. A quenching of our thirst is to have more water available. Moments of peace and relaxation become wanting more peace and relaxation. So there's this natural progression in our capacity to be that love is the nectar, the food of. From one love to a greater love to a greater love. It's not what we've been doing as human beings. If we have a failed relationship, we're looking for a better version in the hope of it being a greater love. Unfortunately, we are not aware how we do this, how we bring what we know from our past to our present and keep replicating the same structures. This is the error of biology. It tries to keep within the species it knows rather than something it doesn't know. So it doesn't know how to love something that it hasn't learned how to love or open to or receive or accept. It might look repulsive or scary and that, or unattractive. And who knows, you married that unattractive person, they became the love of your life because you didn't have all the content that would make people attractive in the way for you. So it's this learning how to discover true love, you might say, is the motivating principle of everything in life as it comes to return to its source. And what will happen in that process as the love grows, it will also learn to eat the non-love. That which resists the ability to love because it gets in the way. But when you eat it, it's like poison. Like elephant, raw elephant. It's very hard to eat. That's why you got to follow Mariana Kaplan's instructions. You take small bites. You got to make sure your jaw can move fully, and you can spend the next week chewing on it until it's enough to be swallowed, and then it's got to be digested, and then you got to crap the thing out. You know, so much like that. But then we learn to love elephant. We learn to acquire a taste for something you didn't ever think you even wanted to acquire a taste for, because it brings you more fully into love, more fully into relationship with life, because you weren't able to be with or didn't want to be with or were afraid of or repulsed by that which you are eating as part of your elephant. This is so simple. You could do an instruction book, 10 steps. Forget all the dogma, right? We know it's dogma, and get dog. Eat dog, not dogma.
No.
I don't get to eat dog. Okay, love dog,
Take it back.
not dogma.
You know, all those people out there who are animal lovers,
She's
Be
protecting
careful.
you. Don't worry.
they can be rather
No, there's love
scary
too.
people.
There's all forms of love. It's just, does the love serve the unfolding? Because unfortunately, the characteristic of love, when you find a new love, is you want to hang on to it. Because that's coming from the need, it's coming from the desire, it's coming from the seeking peace through others or through circumstances. So that we'll cling to it. And therefore stop in our ability to include greater love. And when we lose that which we're clinging to, of course, then we have to go into suffering. And the suffering is caused for the part of us that did not live while we clung, that did not continue to expand in the truth. So inevitably the imbalance is what causes someone to leave or causes you to leave. And that imbalanced nature will do or you will do. And that's how nature assures we continue to fulfill our purpose as individual expression of her, as individual self-aware expression of that field that this planet is a part of and we are the children of. We all have a, you would say, a responsibility to continue to grow in our capacity to include. Because that's what it ultimately is. It includes everything. But as our little separate self, we're excluded, especially these days. We have been banished or censored from that domain of oneness. That is the basis of everything we are. We can know, we can experience. So I want to give that as a context for what we're doing, kind of just restate a simple truth. And let's speak from within that context, if you can, if there's something that shows up for you tonight, in terms of what might be there in this that opened up for you. So, who'd like to come forward, or they can?
No, it's not set up for.
It's not set up for that. Okay. Sorry, you guys. You're just going to have to get what you get remotely. I'm looking at. They're up there. See that little circle? I don't know, how many are on board now?
40.
40 people are in that little circle. It's the work we do. It's the work you do. It's why you're here. Because you're now enjoying more refined versions, more full, true, expanded versions of the love you've already known. And what's before you is one who loves. Can't help it. Because it's truth. But without any repulsion. Well, there's still some repulsion. Everything in this plane's relative, so I speak from up here, but I better get it real down here, right? But I'm pretty good in collusion, in colluding and including.
Including. Colluding. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's an appropriate. And go in collusion with people's egos.
That happens.
That is my error. Love too much, too sentimentally. If I was true love, a third of you wouldn't be here. But I'm too loving to allow that, so. But not everybody is here. Right? Notice 40 are remote.
No, we're going to have 41 in Asilomar.
All right, 41 will
So
come.
we'll have a big space.
But we're going to be bringing a theme, a new kind of shaping, a languaging that's unfolding to respond to how the work is shifting, and this intervention capacity that we're doing now in the world is a unique expression of truth in the human person. that we can actually be a channel for a purifying force that purifies the love, the inclination and the capacity to move into a relationship with that which you've separated yourself from. So there's a languaging we're looking to discover that's appropriate to this shift. And we're going to use the 6th day as one of the ways to explore that. Because it really gets down to something we can translate into our lived life, or to give us a way of holding our lived life so that it can be more useful in the unfolding of that capacity within us. Okay, anybody? Otherwise, I know just where, what's her name? Ima? Ina?
Ina.
Not, yes, not Ina, Arina. I was thinking of Irene. Yes. I know that place, I'll go there. And I'll sit here happy as a clam. Till time runs out.
Don't tempt people.
Why not?
Okay, it's up to
I'm
you.
tempted. I was in Samadhi today till 2 o'clock, or what, maybe it was later.
No, because it was 2 o'clock.
I had meetings,
Yeah.
and then it's been all meetings until I came here, so I haven't had actually a chance to kind of appreciate what it's like to be me.
Well, let's see. What else is going on?
Well, I don't think we need to talk. I think we can just let,
Well, I'm happy
Whatever's
to just
there.
sit here for 20 minutes. No
okay,
problem.
good. You're just going to have to keep track when the 20 minutes is up.
No, I'll tell you when the 15 minutes are.
I see.
You can keep track. You've got
Okay.
a thing there.
Yeah, I'm here to learn. All right, anybody like to come forward, share something? Any question? What's there for you? Okay, Elizabeth.
Please hold the button down, Krista.
It's not on yet.
My glasses up.
Green light on?
Did you get a
Green
green?
light, yeah.
Okay.
Your green light.
I got green.
Green means go.
No, I was just taking in what you were saying, and I was taking in what you were saying, and I was just thinking about a process that I had today in my small group. And my Washington D.C. trip, I kind of got off into other things, and I want to reconnect with what I know how to do. What I learned over the spring. So.
Uh-huh.
I've been aware in the last few days of of a pattern of me that attunes my eyes and my heart to think that I'm not loved, or I'm in trouble, or and that the person or whoever they are, it could be bosses, it could be whoever, that they're mad at me and I'm going to get in trouble. So, and I know that where that comes from. So. And I hadn't had time until I got into my small group to really call on that part of me, like just go inward and ask it to show itself. So I had made a mental note that I needed to do this. So I'm in my small group, and that part of my child didn't want to. Part of her thing was she didn't want to show herself. She was in darkness and she was turned away from me. So I just went into my heart, and the heart just got so big, and I was like burn throughout the core of my body. And eventually she was in my heart. She still didn't want to see me. So I found myself like, okay, what do I do with this? How do I get her to look at me? And then I remembered I don't have to change her. And then like, whew. So I don't know that it's quite finished yet, but I just felt this enormous release of energy and heat. She could just be there. So if that's eating the elephant, yeah. Then
Just like that.
Yeah.
And that, we're multiple parts, right? We have fragments that can be very insistent and very repetitive and keep diminishing us and keep having us be shaped by need and fear. Need and fear is the whole diminishing structure. I need and I'm afraid because the need makes you dependent on what others think, and therefore you're afraid of what they may think or behave, or you might be separated from the thing you need. So that whole structure from childhood, that whole pattern is universal. So then there's this third thing, right, that came from your intelligence, yoga, the intellect, right? And the intelligence says, oh, well, okay, I know this is what I should do. Let's see. And what you noticed is the power of your attention. Because we carry within this redeeming power that can heal all fear and all need. Because they're only able to exist in non-love, only able to exist in separation. But when you attend to that part of you, it's met. It may not want to admit it's been met. It may never want to show itself, right? That's why you need, but you're afraid of your need. You're afraid of anybody seeing your neediness, right? You're afraid of anybody seeing your fear. It wants to actually to be seen, but we don't know how to be seen in that place without this desperateness that goes on behind the need. Right? And all those years of not believing it or trusting it or afraid of it. Because fear and need keep each other in place. Fear without need will not last. It will be a momentary arising event that may have associated with something else. But when need's thrown in, locked in. Fear, need, fear, need, fear, need, all the way up. But when you find that third place to stand, which can include, and you can direct, and what is include is this awakened intelligence in you. When you're in awareness, you actually have love in your attention. Because if nothing else, it wants to know, it wants to understand. And that's a way of inclusion, right? You have a piece of knowledge not known, and you're the knower. When you move closer to it, you know it more, and it knows it's being known. It's not one side. It's not like the little girl in you doesn't know you're paying attention. The piece of you that's fragmented in you knows you're attending to her. And there's a response, even though she won't let on. Right? Just like you were. Right? Please, mom, please, dad, please, dad. You know, it's that whole thing. And then when it comes, you don't want it. And then they hold you long enough, and then, oh, yes, thank you.
It is simple.
We are children.
Yeah.
And everything that's a problem in our life are these undeveloped parts, these immature parts that haven't been met in the way it needed to be met at that moment in your life, in that stage of your development. So, and that's how you do it. When you awake, you have this power of your intelligent discernment and the application of your attention into the right places. Because all these pieces live in your body. They're not out there in your mind. They're not in your idea or your story. They're right there. And when they arise within you, when you can put them someplace like in your heart, which is a healing field without you even knowing it's a healing field, you open the space for that authority you carry through your attention to conduct your own self-healing. Ultimately, you do it. You can be in certain fields, environments, around certain people. It makes it more accessible, and you can be more effective. But on your own, ultimately, it's your attention. You know, I was reading this thing about disconnects, about where they studying synapses in brains, and they noticed that people who have repetitive trauma patterns, that all the years of therapy, they stay in place, that if the person can be both in touch with that trauma when they're in a current time circumstances where the trauma would be otherwise overtake the system, there's a disconnect, I can't quite say it right.
Dissonance?
Yeah, like a lack of harmony. Coherence, yeah. It's incoherence, but they used another word. It's that incoherence. In that moment, the synapse become less solid, and they are open to being replaced. And that when this happens, the structure of the trauma, which is in the series of synapses, obviously, loosen, but they're not gone yet. So the therapy is about how to dismantle the part of us that would reestablish the dissonance. So we can actually meet the issue, it's complete, and then by habit or unwittingly, we can reanimate it and bring it back in. And it would be easy to do because it's already habituated to that. But if you can send in a neutralizing behavior or feeling or image at that moment, it will not be able to reestablish itself. A behavior opposite of what you would otherwise do. And the particular example was a woman who just got hired into a position of greater authority, and she started having panic attacks. And the therapist was able to give her the ability to realize that this was afraid of hurting her mother. This ability of speaking out and then wounding her mother became a trauma for her that happened again and again and again. So when it was fine until she was positioned into authority where she could possibly hurt others. So how she handled it is she took that information and recognizing that's what she was doing, that what was going on, and talked to her mother in real time while she had that available to her simultaneously. And she said in the moment it occurred, it didn't make sense because my mother was loving me and I was loving her. And it didn't make sense. And then she felt it like a moment of just like, huh? Like, who am I, who is her? And then 6 months later, it was completely gone. There were no more panic attacks. So, it's something like what we do. It's the same kind of thing, because the biology keeps the patterns, the synapsings keeps the pattern stuck. So we keep repeating the diminishing structures, not knowing we have the authority to rewire, reprogram. That the brain is actually resilient. And the more we do that, the more resilient and the more capable we can rewire. Software update, reboot. Now, some of you have had these, where just like the whole system reboots. It's like the reality of the previous synapse structure falls away. Now, of course, it can be kind of very disturbing when that happens, and then reorganizes depending upon your priorities, which you've made important, your relationship with truth, your relationship with love, your purpose in life. So it was perfect.
Amen.
There you go.
Yeah.
So there's nothing between you and what you long for, except periodically meeting the thing that's arising, that's throwing you into a habitual structure, like you just did.
Mm-hmm.
Now that little girl now knows you know her.
Yeah. Power of intention.
Power of intention. Then it becomes the power of love. Because she met you. You didn't see her turn around. You just felt this love.
Right.
But she turned around and she merged with you. And then you became more of you. And more of you is like getting more love.
Yeah. That's cool.
It is.
Because I wasn't quite sure where the love was coming from. I just felt.
Yeah, I know. But it's good to understand the process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a good mind, you got good intelligence. These are the part of the technologies of this, I keep forgetting her name.
Irina Tweedy.
Irina. Yeah, Tweedy.
Now we know.
Irina Tweedy. It says, just take all your unwanted thoughts, put them in your heart. No thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to be in silence and stillness. You have to train yourself to be in silence and stillness. And then those intrusive things come up, put them in your heart. They're rising in your gut, and maybe that'll work too. Try it, put it in your heart, because it's the center of that capacity that can move into relationship with existence. Much, much more powerful than the mind. Much more powerful than the body.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're done.
I'm done.
You're done.
We just got started.
Nope, you got 7. We're going to meditation.
No fun.
Nope,
It was fun.
that was fun.
Okay. But I wanted more fun.
You're going to have 6 days of fun.
That's true.
Yes.
Lots of
all are.
silence and stillness to
We
prep
all-
the
Yes.
consciousness too.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. Okay, so thank you all for joining us for this Too brief interlude. And let us practice a little silence and stillness and maybe a little love. It's okay. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri. All glory to Supreme. May truth manifest.